Hello, this is Linda Vetras Nichols, evolutionaryhealer.com, and I have with me the most amazing person, Lisa Eaton. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me, Linda. So grateful.
Absolutely, this is going to be fun. You have an amazing story of transformation, and a lot of stress and anxiety has been in your world, and it's really fun to hear how you've conquered that or work with that, however you look at it, right? So yeah, tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Sure. And I love that you say conquer and then sort of manage, right? Because that's really the
Mhm.
key is just learning how to manage and how to live with stress and anxiety and not let us stop us from doing the
Mhm.
things we want. And sure, my journey began, I think I sort of came into the world with this perfectionistic personality. And I think some particular childhood experiences probably flared that up a little bit. But I really realized as I got older and I wanted to travel and get a higher education and, really do a lot of exciting things. I had to get a handle on this because I realized my stress and anxiety was really holding me back. It was keeping me in this stagnant life. I wasn't able to really do the things that I wanted to. And
Mhm.
truly, then I got married. So I kicked it up a little bit too, because then I had another person holding me accountable for my behavior and saying, hey, wait a minute, you got to really get a handle on your anxiety and stress. And in some ways that made marriage one of the hardest things I've ever done because I really had to look in the mirror and face some of my ways of coping that weren't so healthy and some of my old behavior patterns. But because of that, because my husband is so unconditionally supportive and caring, I was really able to do that with a supportive person. And through learning some coping skills and through understanding what my triggers are and managing some of my negative stressful thinking and going gentle on myself, I've really been able to manage it really effectively and then live the life that I've wanted to live and
Yeah.
travel with wonderful friends and just grow my business and go back to school and a lot of these things that I really wanted to do. And then that became my calling, much as it is for a lot of other people who go on a journey and then want to help other people. As I
Right.
went back to school and I became a licensed psychotherapist and then a stress management coach where I work specifically with women on managing stress and anxiety and negative thinking
Mhm.
that really holds them back. So
Yeah.
then my life's work and I can really kind of tune in to what my clients are dealing with because I've been there.
You have. That's so cool. And today it's stress strategy lifestyle. I love it. Is there anything you want to say before we jump into the slides about stress strategy lifestyle?
I said that's sort of my manifesto, right? That this really is a lifestyle, learning how to be proactive against future stress or buffer future stress, and then just kind of being self-aware of what your triggers are, and we'll talk more about that, but just using those plans and your skills consistently day to day so that of course we can't neutralize all of our stress because that would just not be, good expansive living, but
Hmm.
able to manage it and keep it at bay day to day is really a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, I love it. Very cool. Okay. So understanding stress, and there's a problem, a trigger, and then irrational thoughts. So take us through this teaching because you just have such a great, unique, almost twist on it. Probably because you've experienced it yourself, and I think that helps to make you unique and like stand out maybe a little bit more. If you lined up people who could help with stress and anxiety, someone who's actually experienced it themselves is, I would say, more qualified. So go for it.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so really the idea here is understanding what sort of problems or people or experiences really end up triggering our stress, and along with that, triggering some irrational thought processes that we have, in the situation. So these three are really linked, that it starts with, a situation or a person or an experience that one then becomes a trigger for us to start to feel either physically stressed out or emotionally we have some of these racing thoughts in our heads or we feel We start to judge ourselves, or we expect the worst, or, we're doing a lot of what if thinking. That's the piece about understanding how that works for you, because once you can do that, you can recognize beforehand what kinds of situations and people and experiences might trigger this physical stress response, or might trigger these series of irrational thoughts or self-critical thoughts or judgmental thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to do that ahead of time helps you to kind of see things on the horizon that might produce this in you, so you can be prepared for that, and you can have your skills ready, or you can make sure that you've been healthy that day with sleep and eating and self-care. But
Right.
then it also helps you to recognize in the moment, oh yes, this is one of my triggers, and now I'm getting triggered, so I really have to now deal with this, and here are my go-to strategies for doing that. So it's really a process of self-awareness.
Yeah. And that's where the management piece comes in, and that's what you're able to pass on and do such a dynamic job of teaching. So if and when stress comes up, here's kind of that process of managing it, right?
Yes. And recognizing that that's what's happening beforehand, so you do know what to do rather than just shutting down or by default going into some old, comfortable but unhealthy coping patterns too.
Mm,
So,
I
you know,
like that. Unhealthy coping patterns for sure. Is there anything else you'd like to say on this slide, or would you like to go forward?
just that really irrational thoughts, and that's just something to be aware that we all have them, right? It's not that only people with stress and anxiety have irrational thoughts. We all have them because our brains are always talking to us, and just being tune in and be aware of that can be a really
Mhm.
big thing for separating yourself from some of your irrational thoughts, and knowing that our thoughts aren't facts. We don't have
Mhm.
to buy or swallow everything that we think. That can be a really important component too with stress management.
I love that. Our thoughts are not facts. That's a great Lisa Eaton quote. That's a writer downer. I love that. That's
Beautiful,
awesome.
right?
That's really good. Write that down, right? Okay. So so what can you control? All right. So and your idea on that is you're already in control. So tell us more about your thinking on that.
Sure, sure. Well, stress and problems and anxiety obviously has a really negative connotation, and it can make us feel like all these things are happening to us, or all these things are happening in our external world, or these people are causing us these problems. And then it can really make us feel like we're helpless, or that we don't have a say, or we don't have any way to deal with any of this stuff. So I work a lot with my clients, and I've had to really realize this over the years of really reframing that thought process to understanding, well, yes, there are some things that do happen to us, and there's certainly lots of things that we can't control in life. There are still a lot of things that we can control about life, or a situation, or a relationship experience, and being able to zero back to what you can control. So it's kind of two-part, that recognizing that there is a lot that you can control about even things that do feel very out of control, and
Right?
in the moment really focusing your energy on, okay, well, what can I control? Because sometimes we get stuck in this spinning of being angry or worried, or kind of racing thoughts endlessly and all the stuff that we can't control, and that's never a good use of our energy.
No, because when you focus, whatever you focus on just increases. So if you're going to focus there, you're going to get a whole lot more. And that's like, if you're dealing with anxiety issues in the first place, it's like, you don't need any more anxiety than you've already conjured up for yourself, right?
So true. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I teach my clients, like, it's like if you stub your toe, right? And if you just think about your stubbed toe, it's probably going to hurt for an hour, right? Because it's all you're focusing on. You're going to amplify the pain and the frustration. If you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that hurt, that stinks, I'm going to move on now, then usually
Mm-hmm.
you forget about your stubbed toe because you're not focusing on it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, and my thought process is I use a certain cream that, if I bump something and I'm probably going to get a bruise or even just some inflammation, I just go straight to my cream. So it's like, ouch, where's my cream? It takes my mind off what I just did. And then my cream is like, okay, I can move on because the cream's going to do its thing. It's going to do its work, right? I help the
Sure.
cream help me.
Yes, your coping skill.
As my coping skill. Okay, and what do you mean by options? So what can you control? We have options. Tell us more.
Yeah. So sometimes, and not even sometimes, a lot of the time when things feel very chaotic or feel very out of control, we can lose sight unless we are really trying to focus on that. We can lose sight of what we can control. So I sometimes will take my clients through a really simple, specific exercise where we take a piece of paper and we divide it, long ways down the middle, and we say, okay, this is the column of things that you can control. This is the column of
Mm-hmm.
things that you can't control, and let's sort it out. Let's make a list. And sometimes at first it's hard to come up with things that we can control when something feels really, really stressful or chaotic. But, usually as we're going through this, there are things, people realize there are things that they can control. And sometimes seeing them in black and white can help them understand, oh, okay, well, this is where I could put some of my energy. This is what I can do about this situation. And then it helps
Cool.
feel like they have options, that they're
Right,
not.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you're there to help them brainstorm further options that they might not have thought about. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's the nice part of working with a coach or a therapist or even just a supportive person, is that they're sort of outside or at 30,000 feet from the problem, right? So sometimes they can see things clearly. And this is true for me too. When I'm in it, sometimes I have a hard time seeing what my options are. But, as a support person outside of the problem, sometimes it's helpful, um, for that person to understand, that they do have options, and that person can help them see that.
Very cool. All right. Now tell us about point A to point B and what you mean by that.
Sure. And that's then kind of the action phase of understanding what you can control, and then, okay, well, what do we do next with that? So if we go back to that exercise with the two columns, I will sometimes then help clients see, okay, now we've got 5 things on this list of things that you can control. What can you choose out of this list of things to help you get from point A to point B, right? So
Right.
then we kind of break down in like an order even of priority or of doability, right? What is something, if you're
Mhm.
really having a rough day and you're just feeling kind of a mess, okay, what is something on this list that feels doable for you today,
Mhm.
that's going to be a little bit closer to step,
Mhm.
to partly with solving the problem or feeling like you've got a little bit of a handle on it. So it's really more of that action.
Yeah, you know what I like about that is point A is the point of being fully present and noticing what's going on in one's world. And then checking in, is this what I am choosing to have happen in my world? Is this serving me? Where's the benefit for me in where I am at right now? And then where do I want to go? I like looking at point A, point B that way as
Absolutely.
well. Very cool. All right, moving right along. Action steps. So take the next step. Absolutely. Check in and then go forward, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love that you mentioned being present and really kind of making a choice. And sometimes that's what we can control too, is our ability to calm ourselves and make some choices with our
Mm-hmm.
options.
Yeah, just getting breaks on your anxiety to know that it's safe and okay to stop everything, take that step back, get into that mountain view and make a
Sure,
decision. Yep. Because
sure.
a lot of times we have stress and anxiety because we have been putting decisions off. Do you agree?
Sure. I agree. A lot of times we put decisions off because we're shutting down and we're feeling so overwhelmed
Yes.
that we can't do it. And sometimes that's part of what's on the list of what you can control, is just getting yourself to a place through skills
Mm-hmm.
or through what works for you, so you can
Mm-hmm.
be a little bit more rational and clear-headed and face the problem. So I
Right.
agree with
And yeah, and getting in touch with a certain sensation within the body that goes off like almost every time one gets overwhelmed, and getting in touch with that. And that's what I've been doing is like, as things kind of pick up in my business, like what is that feeling? And it's like there's this feeling coming up. Oh, that's that feeling. And I know how to get rid of it. I
yeah,
can go take a walk. I'm
yeah.
getting overwhelmed. It's time for a walk, right?
Yes, a great example because what you're doing is you're recognizing it and then you're coping with it. And sometimes, without that, we recognize what's happening, but we misinterpret it as a sign that maybe we shouldn't do something or we're making the
Hmm.
wrong decision or this is too big for us. And sometimes it's just very normal anxiety or stress that
Hmm.
is coming out because we are overwhelmed or something is feeling really big. So I
Yeah.
love that.
And I think in a marriage relationship, or even with kids around, it's we can be at this stage, I call it stage of the other, where it's everybody else's fault. If they weren't doing this, if they weren't doing that. And I believe that when you get alone and you have your me time and you're still having stuff setting you off, even in your thoughts, it's like, oh, it's not the other people. It's me. It's my stress. I'm going to own this. And you become more patient with your spouse or kids or significant other. Yeah. Or
And,
friends.
and yes, and that's another thing that you can't control, right? Is your own reactions to people. We can't control how they're approaching us or how they're interpreting the situation or what they're saying to us, but we can
Hmm.
control what we do with that and how we react to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone is, predatoring us, so to speak, how we react back, it really makes a difference whether they keep coming at you or not. So that's been interesting too. Okay. And self-care. All right. I love that type topic. I think that's so important, especially for women, because we just sort of, you know, get to taking care of everybody else because that's our, love and nurture, and love's so important to us, and it's the way we show our love. And I'm Cancer, so it's all about the moon maiden and being the mother and doing the nurturing. So um, it's you'd think it would be easy for me to nurture myself, and that doesn't always happen. It's okay, stop and think, what is it that you need right in this moment? Are you getting support? Why aren't you getting support? What is it that you can say to your husband or whatever, my husband, um, to feel more supported? Maybe I know he's supporting me, but I'm not feeling it. So then I can have a conversation with him and let him know, just one little something that would just give me this really big high sign that he is supporting me, even though it's weird because I know he is. So it's interesting.
That goes back to that stress management as a lifestyle piece, or stress strategies are a lifestyle, that having that way to nurture yourself and to kind of rejuvenate or just to kind of go and get comfortable, even for a small period of time every day is so crucial.
Yeah, and I just learned that if you exercise in the morning, you have more energy the next day. And so you
Hmm.
just keep going, and wow, that just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. So I thought that was really exciting, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot, just a little something, something. It's about shifting in degrees, right? So
Yeah,
very cool. I love
what
it.
works for you. That's really the key for self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. What makes you happy and relaxed and calm? Okay, cool. And then support team. I feel very strongly about women being well supported, checking in to make sure that they are making changes if they aren't. And so I know you've got some great tips on surrounding oneself with a good support team.
Yes, yeah, thank you. This is another really important component of being able to manage stress and take action, is figuring out who in your life, and sometimes there's more than a couple, but who in your life is someone that you really feel like supports you and cheers you on, that you can trust. A lot of times when clients come to me, whether they're my therapy clients or my coaching clients, and they've got, a really stressful thing happening, besides some of these basic foundations like, self-care and sleeping, we talk about, okay, who's your support person going to be? Let's pick someone, and I want you to give them a call after you leave our session, and I want you to let them know they're your designated support person and that you may need to call on them in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning or while you're driving because you're upset or you're starting to lose focus or you're wanting to shut down. And, can that person really cheer you on? Can that person kind of help you reframe your thoughts? Can that person just
Mhm.
be available to let you know this is going to pass? or you
Yes.
do this, and really just kind of sometimes being our rational brain when we lose the ability to do that in the moment. And I always want my
Right.
clients to have someone outside of me in their natural environment that they can really turn to manage.
Very smart. I have a good support system, and my mom always has said, "This too shall pass," and she's a great listener. And so, just having any kind of a conversation, whether I'm just kind of dumping or we just talk, I can shift so quickly. And I have a friend in mental health actually, and she's great to talk to. And we don't usually even talk about a problem or an issue. It's just to know that somebody who loves me and supports anything and everything that I do and is always there, like if we need each other, we're that way with each other too. It's like I just need a Danielle call, and she's like, I just need a Linda call, and then it passes so quickly. It's just amazing to have just someone on your in your court, so to speak.
Self-care too, right? Just feeling nurtured by
Hmm.
somebody, or said listened to by somebody and supported. And it's such
Hmm.
an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Okay, so to review, understanding stress and what we can control and action steps. So why don't you summarize all of this for us,
Sure.
Lisa?
Sure. Well, the really one of the core ideas with stress management is really kind of tuning into yourself and understanding
Mm-hmm.
what situations trigger your stress. And we all have them, right? I know what my list of triggers are, whether it's certain people or certain situations or just certain even times of the day where I'm maybe not as effective or I'm more easily stressed out. Understanding that can be really powerful because then you're not caught off guard. You can kind of go to your plan when you feel yourself get triggered, or you can maybe prevent its impact on you. And that's a really important part of the stress strategies lifestyle. Second piece is really understanding that you can control a lot of what's going on. And usually there's always something, even in the most out of control feeling situations, there's always something. And being able to identify what that is so that you can move into the next piece, which is taking action and
Mm-hmm.
being able to say, okay, what are my skills? Who do I need to call right now? What do I need to do right now? How do I need to take care of myself so I can do these things in
Mm-hmm.
order to manage my stress? And a lot of what I tell people is that stress management is just like a set of skills that we can all learn. Most of us don't learn them as we grow up because that's just not
Yep.
something that usually happens. We learn how to tie our shoes and drive a car, but we oftentimes don't learn how to manage big emotions or our stress. And
Mm-hmm.
so the action steps piece is about learning those skills and knowing that they are learnable. They're not some magic secret formula that only a certain amount of people have, that
Mm-hmm.
they are you to take care of yourself and to take action and to really just, learn to cope with some of the big curveballs that
Mm-hmm.
come our way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have an amazing gift. Your gift is your stress strategy guide. So tell us about that.
Sure. I developed this, the guide, because a lot of times people would come to me on a coaching call or, in my therapy practice, and they would say, oh my gosh, this thing is happening and I don't know what to do. And they were right. They felt paralyzed by fear. They were so scared of making the wrong move. They were oftentimes riddled with all kinds of irrational thoughts about what was going on. Maybe they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a support call. So I've actually put together a guide that really, no matter what your problem might be, whether you're having relationship problems or you're having some grief issues or your kids are out of control or you're just really stressed out, my guide takes you through several very specific steps of what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. And it's really kind of the process that I take my clients through in session of, okay, this is how we're going to get you to deal with this specific problem. Let's take some of these steps. So it really becomes kind of a self-guide of what you can do on your own to sort of navigate some of these bigger stress or bigger problems.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. And something that you can do on your own on top of it because everybody's really busy. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Oh,
you.
right. And you can go back to your email to just click the link and you can go right out and get that. All right. So super, Lisa. Thank you so much. At my house, we use the word perception, and I can safely say to my husband, yes, that is your perception. If he's accusing me of something or he's upset about something or whatever, and I say, yes, and that is your perception. Like, I honor his perception, right? And he honors my perception. But that doesn't mean it's the truth of what's really going on, and I can then share my side. And we go to our safe place, and we just discuss it. We usually go to our bedroom. We're in a little one-bedroom apartment, so downsized from big houses, so used to more space than this. That's our safe space, and then it's your thoughts, my thoughts, our thoughts, and we just put stuff out in the center so we can see what everybody's thinking, and then we can make the shifts from there. And we can agree to disagree, but most of the time it gets resolved just understanding, okay, we're coming from two different perceptions for whatever reason, and we can kind of sort through those reasons out in the middle of the table. And then we also have a rule, like, you don't get to interrupt each other. And sometimes we think the other person is done speaking, and really they've just sort of stepped back in thought. And so we kind of are figuring out like a high sign for one another, or, I know groups of people will pass a ball or something like that. So that's how we work on things.
Yeah, excellent. Or even sometimes recognizing I'm not in a place to perceive things accurately. I need some time and some space to get away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's an offer, should we go talk about it? It's like, no, I'm not ready, and that's fine. We came together so quickly in our marriage that, we were married within 2.5 weeks, he had seen me 10 months before. Right. So, yeah, we didn't know each other's triggers, and that got interesting. And so we did this thing where if someone's going to a 1, it's like everything stops and we talk. And 3 would be like throwing things, so it was like, that's the rule, never get to 3. So we had our 1, 2, and 3. And I think a few times we got to a 2 because the person wasn't listening to the fact that we were at a 1. So we called 2 and then was like, okay. And then we sat down. So that was really cool. Thank you so much. You have wonderful tips, and you're just an amazing person.